Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Small Bites. It is episode 60. I'm about a minute early, so I want to give everybody a minute to get here. Oh, wow, I'm listening to myself. Woohoo! All right. Anyway, I am super excited to be here. This is my 60th episode, and I love those big numbers. 50 is 60, and this one's super special because it is also part preview of finding your blind spots. Finding your blind overcoming implicit bias in teaching is available for pre-order on both Amazon and Solution Tree. And I am going to tell you a little bit about a really awful story. So this week's title is Microaggressions in Music. So your 5 strategies are going to actually be 5 songs, but I'll get to that later. For now, I want to tell you a little bit about microaggressions. A microaggression is an unintended slight. It's asking a Black person at Harvard, oh, so I guess you're on scholarship, right? That assumes that you probably don't belong here and you couldn't afford to be here. Those kinds of moments. So microaggressions can also occur unintentionally because we are not necessarily careful about what kind of things we consume and put up. If you've ever seen the video where what's his name, Wayans, plays a blonde woman and they're all saying the N-word in the car and they're deciding to rap this song or not, and that can be a microaggression depending on whether or not you're with somebody who finds that offensive. You know, I cannot say this is definitely a no-no, but I can say that when I look back on some of my truths, there were some cringy moments. This is not America where all the Black people learn something and all the white people learn something else. This is a country where we all learned one version of history, one perspective, and well, there are many perspectives. That's why I always teach that history, we should use multi-perspectivity when teaching on any historical event. So this particular moment, I was with 3 other girlfriends. I was the only Black one. There were a Korean girl, a couple of white Americans, and then me. And we were out dancing, having a great time. And the Stones came on. Well, okay, everybody loves the Stones, right? You should listen to some of those lyrics. On came Brown Sugar, just like a Black girl should. And I was dancing. Hey, the song's about me. I'm brown, I'm sweet. Yeah. Ooh. And every time they would get to the Brown Sugar part, my girlfriends would go, and I would, throw my arms in the air like waving like I did. It was awful. No, at the moment, it was great. Looking back now, hey buddy, looking back now through the lens of many years of research and growing and evolving, I read the lyrics to that song. If you do not know the lyrics to that song, go back and read them. Kind of cringy to be, partying and thinking that was a hymn praising my great worth. Kind of wasn't. I mean, well, go and look for yourself. So my big point is not that, oh my God, every song with Stones have ever done is awful, we got to get rid of it. My point is also not that when we look at art and it doesn't actually espouse the values, it doesn't bear out the values that we talk about today, if they're not politically correct by today's mores, we should get rid of them and ban them. I don't advocate that. Art mirrors life. Art mirrors life. And life is sometimes messy and icky and yucky in a lot of ways. And so when artists write about things like trouble at the border or life in Mexico or underage relationships, those things actually do happen. And an artist can also write about those things. So this is not about what you should ban. This is simply about asking you, when you play these songs, is there someone in your audience who might feel slighted? Oh wow! I just have if you're here and watching the chat, Bonnie Nieves said, by the way, her book "Be Awesome on Purpose." If you have not gotten it, let me plug that right now. So Bonnie says that they just recently decided to drop that song from their tour, and that's just it. Everyone learns and evolves. You know, we all deserve to have made some cringeworthy mistakes. But I'd like to give you a little food for thought. And this week's Friday 5 is actually the Small Bites Friday 5 songs. So this week you can learn about micro insults, just those small unintentional slights in songs. These are 5 you might use to spark reflection, but let me warn you, these are not songs that you want to put in a playlist for your students. If you have very mature students, older students, there are a couple of them that you might be able to discuss, but the themes are generally not G-rated. So these are more for your personal reflection. Brown Sugar, they are, by the way, listed from most offensive to least offensive. Brown Sugar by the Stones. How about in the summertime? That one has a wonderful line. If her dad is rich, take her out for a meal. If her dad is poor, do whatever you feel. A lot to unpack about that. And I even have a blog article that has that title. So I'm thinking, God, do I want to go back and just change that? It was just because, in the summertime, it's great, warm summer feeling. Not quite. All right. There's also Illegal Alien by Genesis. Love Genesis. One of the greatest drummers, and I loved him. A drummer that sings, gotta love it. But there's some very cringeworthy stereotypes. And while it is a parody, if I were playing that song in a group with one Mexican friend, would he or she feel comfortable? That's a question. How about this one? Everybody was kung fu fighting. If you ever heard that song growing up, that's one of those songs that makes you think, oh yeah, because it was a fun song. But again, a couple of cringe-worthy stereotypes. And then there's Mexico by James Taylor, which may or may not be, I'm kind of on the fence about that one. I'm not really sure what he's saying, but he talks about times being hard in Mexico. And again, I love James Taylor. He's one of my favorite all-time artists. But in context, would I be offending somebody if that was on my playlist? Because there's so often an anti-Mexican sentiment, the whole rapists and drug dealers kind of thing. So would they feel unnecessarily burdened if I were to play the song? So those are my 5. Listen to them. They're all linked in on hedrick.com. Go and get all of your resources there. And at the bottom, from Finding Your Blind Spots, there is a wonderful infographic that talks a little bit about micro insults and microaggressions, not from what you do, but what the consequences are for those people who experience those small slights every day. So thank you so much for joining me each week. Keep listening, keep learning, like, subscribe, and I will see you Monday morning on the podcast or next Friday for episode 61. Thank you. Hey, Tracy. Thank you guys again for coming, for listening, for learning. Keep being better. See you next week.